Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Imran Khan. Good afternoon, Mr. Imran Khan, Chairman, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Mr. S.R. Nathan, 6th President of the Republic of Singapore, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, Chairman, Institute of South Asian Studies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Institute of South Asian Studies, or ISAS for short, I warmly welcome you to today's public lecture on A Perspective on Pakistan and the Way Forward. To begin the session, I would like to invite Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, Chairman of ISAS, to deliver his opening remarks. Ambassador Pillai, please.
I'm the one in between the great speech and a good time that you're going to have, but I have to make this speech. Guest of honor, Mr. Imran Khan, former President, Mr. Nathan, former Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, Mr. Sainal Rashid, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure in welcoming you for this ISAS public lecture. The subject given there, the perspective on Pakistan and the way forward. This is to be delivered, as you know, by Mr. Imran Khan, Chairman of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. And I would also like to say special welcome to Mr. S.R. Nathan. Let me first thank Sajjad Foundation and Mr. Ali Hussain in particular for making this event possible. This is a much awaited event, and we are very happy. On behalf of the audience here, I thank you for making it possible. Now, I will try to make an attempt to introduce someone who, as the saying goes, really needs no introduction. Mr. Imran Khan is an iconic figure across South Asia. And on the great achievements, apart from the great achievements as a cricketer, as a philanthropist and as a forthright political person, we greet him today and thank him for being with us. After retiring from active sports, Mr. Khan has devoted his energies to various philanthropic activities in providing healthcare, education services to the poor and needy in Pakistan. He has also emerged as a key political figure in Pakistan as the chairman of Tehreek-e-Insaf, a political party whose name stands for Movement for Justice in Urdu. Mr. Khan's political agenda focuses on religious tolerance, liberal economic policies, clean and efficient government, independent judiciary, and a democratic Pakistan. My first glimpse of Mr. Khan was sometime in the 1980s. I was visiting Bangalore for business, and together with my Indian business associate, I went to the hotel coffee shop. At the corner of the coffee shop, there was a huge crowd standing around a strikingly handsome, tall young man. And they were obviously having a very good time. So I sat down and I asked my Indian host, is he an actor? He looked at me incredulously And with somewhat of a contempt, he said, "You mean you don't recognize Imran Khan? You know, every kid in India will have his photograph in the bedroom." I was chastised. I was very ashamed of my ignorance. But one point that emerged from this little episode was that Imran Khan was popular across the South Asian subcontinent. And I thank you, sir, for being here with us today. Now, a word about Pakistan. Pakistan, unfortunately, is often in the news for the wrong reasons. The plethora of reports on adverse developments in Pakistan has diverted attention away from the importance and potential of the country. There is no way that Asia and the world can afford to overlook a country which is a strategic state in a part of the world, and with a population of 181 million. Pakistan is the 8th most populous country in the world and the 4th largest in Asia, after China, India, and Indonesia. The Pakistan economy has a size of 210 trillion, placing it among the 50 largest economies of the world. Pakistan enjoys a significant geostrategic location by being situated at the junction of Middle East, South Asia, and Central Asia. During this Cold War years, Pakistan was a strong ally of ASEAN. When on Christmas Day in 1978, Vietnam marched into Cambodia, Pakistan stood with us and expressed solidarity in opposition to the invasion. An eminent British statesman had said that Britain had no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. But I would suggest that the world has a permanent interest in seeing Pakistan being a stable, strong, and democratic country. As I said, we have always taken a great care to follow the developments in Pakistan closely and analyzing them objectively. Our team of scholars on Pakistan have helped in developing a strong information and research base on the country, on Pakistan, and continue to remain an important part of our current and future research. We study Pakistan not only as part of our core focus on contemporary South Asia, but also as an important part of our ongoing work on South Asian diaspora. Today, we will listen and learn from the views of an increasingly important political figure. We will have some time for question and answers, and I'm sure you will have an enjoyable afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. It is my pleasure now to invite Mr. Imran Khan on stage to deliver the public lecture on A Perspective on Pakistan and the Way Forward.
Ambassador Pere, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to thank ISAS for inviting me here, giving me an opportunity to speak in front of this eminent audience. And I look forward to your questions, because that's really when I'll know what aspect of this moving forward you are really interested in. There's no doubt that Pakistan today faces a series of crises. But you know, I believe that crisis in a human's life or in a country's life, they're a great opportunity to change course. It's an opportunity to analyze your weaknesses and move forward. I think Pakistan has reached that point where the majority of Pakistanis now realize that we cannot go on as we have been so far. This realization, of course, the main beneficiary of this realization is the party called Tehreek-e-Insaf, which we started 60 years back. It is the fastest growing party in Pakistan. We recently did a membership campaign and we had 10 million members, which makes it probably one of the biggest parties anywhere. How do we move forward? We have a crisis of massive proportion as far as our economy is concerned, huge deficit. We have this war on terror imposed on us, which is a question of the blind leading the blind. Neither the US knows how to win this war, and clearly neither does Pakistan, because it's basically taking instructions from the US. So the famous line in Alice in Wonderland, that if you don't know where you're going, any road takes you there. So we are groping in this war on terror. No one quite knows what is victory. No one knows this. I keep asking everyone, how do we win this war? And no one seems to know. Neither do the Americans, certainly not the Pakistani government. So we are stuck in this war, which was supposed to be against extremism, and there is more extremism in Pakistan than ever before in our history. And then we have a problem in Balochistan. There's an insurgency, which started off when, in the previous regime, Nawab Akbar Bhutto was assassinated. Then there's a problem in Karachi, where there's target killing. Parties sitting in government have their own militias. Police has become completely ineffective because it's become politicized. So there's, what is our financial hub, there is a huge crisis there. So businesses are just going abroad, going to Bangladesh, Malaysia, going to Dubai. And then there is a huge crisis of law and order because of the war on terror, especially in the northern province of Pakhtunkhwa. The police is defending itself, so it's unable to defend its citizens. So aside from that, everything is fine. So we have these huge problems. But the positive thing, now what is different now? Why here is Imran Khan standing, who's more optimistic than ever before in my 16 years of politics. Why am I optimistic? Because finally, I thought one day my people will rise and want to change. Finally, that has happened, reflected in this membership. But we had these rallies about a year back. Never in Lahore, in the biggest venue, never have so many people walk to a rally as they did a year ago. And then in Karachi again, almost 250,000 people came to one of the biggest rallies there. So this reflects a desire for change, and the change is across the board. It's not just that one section of the society, it is basically starting from the richest people, the businesses, from the middle classes to the poorest classes. There are three different education systems, unfortunately, in Pakistan: the English medium for the elite, Urdu medium for the masses, then Dini madrasas. All three are parallel systems going. But in our rallies, all three these social groups were represented. So we had people from Dini madrasas coming, from the Urdu English medium. So it's a desire for change. Recently there was a survey in Pakistan by the International Republic Institute. 80% of Pakistan felt that we were going in the wrong direction and we needed to change. So this is the positive thing. I would have been depressed today if people were satisfied with the situation in Pakistan. Fortunately, people feel the time has come for a change. So, being an optimist, someone who used to step on the cricket field always thought he would win. So but this time I really do believe that we're going to win. Inshallah. Just to give you now, before I tell you the way forward, why I think we'll win, out of the 84 million registered voters in Pakistan, 40 million voters will vote for the first time ever. In other words, the youth vote is 40 million. The combined vote of the two main parties, which have taken turns to rule and ruin Pakistan, is 18 million, 1/8. So 40 million new voters are going to vote for the first time. This is where, in my opinion, the big upset will take place. There are two other factors. One is, for the first time, television played a very important part in the elections. We have one of the most vibrant electronic media. One of the positive things of the Musharraf era was that he allowed television channels to operate, and no longer was the state monopoly of the government-run television. No longer is that now, the censorship of the state monopoly is no longer there. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, in the last election, which I contested in 2002, the total television time I was given was 20 minutes in the election. Now, of course, you have all these electronic, these private TV channels. The most watched programs are current affair programs, not any soap operas, not dramas. The TV current affair programs, mind you, they themselves have become a soap opera and a drama. The chief, the most watched actor, of course, being Sheikh Rashid, the only one. So these TV channels and these current affair programs has raised the level of political awareness, which is unprecedented. Everyone, I mean, I began to see this change about 3 years back, 2.5 years ago. I would be visiting villages in the mountains. Young boys, teenagers would know everything about what was going on in Pakistani politics. So this is a very positive thing that has happened. You have a politically aware public which will go to vote for the first time. Before that, the state media of the television was controlled. Newspaper, print media coverage is barely out of, say, 180 million. It barely covered 1 million people. So therefore, you could control the expression, you could control information. You cannot anymore. Added to this, of course, is social media. Now, social media amongst the youth has, again, it's been an X factor. None of the traditional parties understood it until, of course, PTI, our party, until the young started using social media. Now, this has again transformed Pakistan. Information spreads very quickly. You can't hide anything. You might be, the old political parties might spend a lot of money, they're in power, they use advertisement to control as much as they can information, but they cannot control the social media. So this is another thing that has come up, which is unique. So in my opinion, a politically aware public, for the first time an independent Supreme Court, for the first time a very credible election commissioner. We've never had an election commission of such credibility as Fakhruddin Ibrahim. So this along with Tehreek-e-Insaf, which has this huge membership. We are in the process of conducting intra-party elections. So we will be the first time a political party which will have 80,000 elected positions by the time we finish our elections. So that's where my optimism lies. I think that despite everything, the status quo parties will not be able to stand this wave of what I call the tsunami of change. Now, what should change be? What should be what I call the new Pakistan? What should it look like? Number one, we must have a Pakistan which stands on its own feet. This whole war on terror, going into someone's war, and sadly, for dollars, because we need not have been in this war. We should have helped the US, it faced terrorism. Any country faces terrorism, it was duty of all human beings to help them. But not the way we ended up killing our own people, bombing our villages, turning our own people against ourselves, handing over people without the due process of law, ending up in Guantanamo Bay. Most of them turned out to be innocent. So we created this problem in Pakistan only because we cannot balance our budget. We cannot meet our own expenses. we don't have the revenues, we don't have enough tax collection to stand on our own feet. 20 years ago, we became a frontline state for the US, and we produced the Mujahideen. CIA money, Pakistan ISI, we created the Mujahideen. And when the Soviets left in 1989, the same Mujahideen groups were patronized by Pakistan establishment because they had created them. Come 2001, we took money to kill those same people as terrorists. So no country cannot face the consequences of such a two-faced policy. How do you tell the same people who you created to fight foreign occupation, just the Soviets, because you fought the Soviets, it was jihad, but now you want to fight the US occupation, you're terrorists? How do you do that? Once you brainwash these people, there were always going to be consequences. So what happens is that the same people created by our establishment turn against us. And most of them are now called the Punjabi Taliban. So this mess was created because we could not stand on our own feet. We needed aid, we needed loans, because we were living beyond our means. We were not collecting taxes. Rather than doing what we should have done is restructure our economy, make the painful reforms, tax the rich who don't pay taxes, we ended up taking the easy way out and sort of made ourselves a frontline state, not realizing the consequences of what we were going to do. And we ended up in this current mess now, that the government released these figures, that the total US aid which has come into Pakistan since 2001 is under 20 billion. The amount of money the economy has lost is over $70 billion. So it has, for short-term benefits, we ended up creating this mess where over 50,000 Pakistanis are dead. Every day Pakistanis are dying in this war. And as I said, no one knows how to get out of this war. And unless, and this is my fear, unless we have a credible government that has a clear policy to get us out of this war, which I'll come later on, how to get out of this war, we are going to create such radicalization that we don't need any enemies. This current radicalization might actually sink us. So, number one is how to collect revenues. In my opinion, a country that per capita gives the highest amount of charity pays the lowest amount of taxes. And that's simple because people do not trust the government. People don't want to pay taxes. All research done for better tax collection, one thing keeps cropping up. If people don't want to pay taxes, you cannot collect them. So there's a resistance. People don't want to pay taxes because the taxes go to finance the lavish lifestyle of our rulers. Most of the money goes into corruption. Our ruling elite does not pay taxes. 61% of the parliamentarians sitting in the assemblies do not pay any income tax. And remember, to fight an election in Pakistan, you need a lot of money. So these are the richest people sitting in our parliament. 61% don't pay taxes. The two leaders of Pakistan, dollar billionaires, one paid $50 tax 2 years back, and the other one didn't even bother to pay any taxes. So it's not a question of lead by example. It's do what I say, but don't do what I do. So this has to change. For Pakistan's survival, we must collect revenues. And our party has devised a proper policy, how to create a tax culture, how to have a massive austerity campaign, close down these lavish, symbolically, these governor houses, colonial symbols anyway. They should be closed, made into government, made into libraries, the big fields. I always had my eye on this Lahore governor house. And I'm picturing that the moment Tehreek Insaf comes into power, there'll be bulldozers standing to bulldoze those walls. Because you need to... Because when you look at the colonials, look at the way they spend their own taxpayers' money. Look at 10 Downing Street, and then look at the Lahore or various governor houses. So these are symbols of colonialism. You need to tell your taxpayer that we respect them, we value their money. You cannot any longer, I mean, Pakistan has to be run like it's never been run before. So the ruling elite must lead by example, pay taxes. So our party is the first party ever. The entire leadership has declared their assets, how much taxes they pay, how much, what are the assets of their children, their wives, and we put it on a website. So we first of all started the public scrutiny from ourselves, self-accountability, and then we expect this from the others. Secondly, we intend to do what the IRS does in the US. Anyone caught in tax fraud goes straight to jail, no bail. And the reason why this must happen is because you have to tax the rich. At the moment, poor subsidize the rich. 80% of taxes are collected by indirect taxes, which leads to inflation, so the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. And then we must have, in Pakistan, we have holy cows. The rich have created ways of evading taxes. So agriculture, which is 25% of the GDP, is tax-free. So anyone can hide their income in agriculture. And then there's various other loopholes. Latest is that if you put your money in the stock exchange, you don't have to pay any taxes, no questions asked. So, block these. So in my opinion, we can at least collect as our tax GDP ratio can be the same as India. I mean, let's compare ourselves to India because we got independent at the same time. We have similar sort of characteristics. So if India can collect 17 to 18%, if it can have a tax GDP ratio of 17 to 18%, but there's no reason why Pakistan should be stuck at 8%. So if we double our taxation, I reckon Pakistan becomes solvent. We can stand on our own feet. We will have enough money to spend on health and education of our children, of our youth. And then, cutting your expenditure, raising your revenues, this has to be an emergency. Then it has to be an emergency to spend money on human development. No longer can Pakistan not spend on its education. We have the lowest education budget probably we compare to the sub-Saharan states. So we must, half of Pakistan's population is below the age of 25. This can become a huge resource if we spend money on them. It can be a disaster if we keep going as we are. So what we intend to do is to divert money, raise our education budget by 3 times in 5 years. And any money saved from corruption will go straight into education. So we have made a whole plan how to divert resources towards education. In fact, have an education emergency. Make people realize that this is no longer an option, it's an emergency. And same with health, because it's very important to spend money on education and health, because then that impacts the population growth rate. Pakistan also has the highest population growth rate, unless there's female literacy. Unless we spend money on female education, which is, by the way, one of the lowest. We have the lowest female literacy probably anywhere in the world. We have to spend money on female literacy, primary health care, and this is what will bring our population growth rate down. And then energy is a big problem in Pakistan. We worked it out. The reason why we have these massive energy shortages are 2: incompetence and corruption. If in the short term it's management of electricity, better management to provide more electricity, and in the long term it is producing electricity from indigenous sources. So we are sitting on one of the biggest coal reserves, but unfortunately not much attention has been paid to that. Pakistan has great reservoirs of gas. Normally the average is 1 in 10 wells. If you explore, you can get gas. In Pakistan, it's 1 in 3. So we're sitting on huge gas reservoirs, but unfortunately, these have again not been exploited. So it needs the resource has to be indigenous, and then we have about 50,000 megawatts of electricity in hydro. But again, we have not built a series of small dams which we can easily build and give us the cheapest electricity. So energy is the other crisis, and then the last crisis, of course, is to get out of this war on terror. Now, mine is the only party that has a solution, and I'll give you the solution right now. The only way to get out of this or to stop this frenzy of fanaticism, because it is a frenzy right now in Pakistan. We have so many radical groups growing up. Every day the sectarian groups are growing, the various militant groups under the generic name of Taliban. So we have to disengage from this war. And the reason why we need to disengage is to take the narrative of jihad away from the militants. As the militants have declared jihad against the Americans. I mean, the Taliban have declared jihad against the Americans. The reason they say is that it's an occupation force, just like against the Soviets. Before that, in the 19th century, against the British. So this area has always resisted foreign occupation. And whenever foreign occupation comes, it's a religious duty, it's jihad, so they fight. But they've also declared jihad. The militants fighting in Pakistan's tribal areas have also declared jihad against the Pakistan security forces, because they say they are collaborators and they are mercenary army of the US. And because they have declared jihad, what does the greatest amount of damage are the suicide attacks. So even if the numbers of militants are not that great, it's that suicide attacks that are causing havoc in Pakistan, and obviously the reason why the US the NATO forces are not winning in Afghanistan is because of the suicide attacks. And there is actually, there is no defense against suicide attacks. If someone is willing to blow himself up, they will find a way of getting to you. So far in military strategy, there is no strategy against it. And in Pakistan, the suicide attackers have attacked the general GHQ in Pindi, the main headquarters. They've attacked. They almost got to, the main general sitting there. It was a touch and go thing. They've attacked the air base. They've attacked the naval base in Karachi. They've attacked the commando base. Because once, as I said, people are willing to die, you don't have a defense against them. And the reason why they are willing to blow themselves up, because they think it's a religious duty, it's jihad, they will go to heavens. This narrative has to be taken away to win this war. So I have opposed this, the moment I have opposed military action by the Pakistan army and this involvement in what is the US war, because Pakistan had nothing to do with it. We know Pakistani was involved in 9/11, Al-Qaeda was in Afghanistan, there were no Taliban in Pakistan. We did not have to get into this war. So I opposed it from day one. And unfortunately, because there's such a naive thinking that if you oppose military action, you're pro-Taliban. No one understands even the Taliban phenomenon, because no one knows the tribal areas of Pakistan. So I happen to be the only politician who's been there, who wrote a book on the tribal areas 20 years back. So since that day, I have opposed this war. The more we have got into this war, the worse things have got. So as I said, if this war was against extremism, there is more extremism in Pakistan than ever in our history today. Last year, governor got shot. The guy who killed the governor became a hero. And for something that was so insignificant, you can't even imagine. I mean, you wouldn't even think that it would not even have made into the newspapers what he said 8 years back. So such is the polarization in Pakistan today, that anyone perceived to be on the other side, pro-American collaborator, is a target now. And it's a dangerous time. That's why the sooner we get out of it, the better. So the way to go about it is disengage, take the narrative away. The moment you disengage, you say it's no longer jihad. And if it's no longer jihad, the way to win over the tribal areas is not by sending the Pakistan army, which is stuck there. 140,000 Pakistani soldiers are stuck in the tribal areas. And they're not winning. The way to win this is by asking, the moment it is no longer jihad, the people of tribal areas will never fight a mujahideen. They are religious, conservative people. The moment the jihad narrative is taken away, we don't need the Pakistan army. We just need our people of the tribal areas to go and reclaim their land. And if you, just to give you an idea of the statistics, there are 800 to 900,000 armed men in the tribal areas. The total number of militants is barely 20 to 30,000. So So all we have to do is ask our people of the tribal areas to reclaim the land the moment jihad finishes. I took this march, the Waziristan march, I took 100,000 people there, only for one reason. I wanted the international media to meet the tribal people. The most ferocious tribe is the Masood tribe, which is in Tank in Dia Khan, where I took this march. The idea was for Pakistani media and international media to interact with the tribesmen and ask them what is the solution. And in my opinion, and since I know the area, and by the way, the Tehreek-e-Insaf party is by far the most popular party in the tribal belt, specifically in Waziristan. So they would have told the international media that, look, disengage from the US war and we will reclaim our land. What makes the militants say that we are fighting the US war? Number one is aid, US aid, because we are taking money to Pakistan army is then perceived as a mercenary army. And secondly, the drone attacks, because the drones are targeting exactly the same people the Pakistan army is fighting. So that's how they link it, and that's how they can say that they're collaborators and it's jihad. And so we have to disengage. The steps we have to take: disengage, withdraw the Pakistan army, at the same time allow our tribal people to go back and reclaim the land. And if the Pakistan army needs to be used, it should only be used in aid of the people of tribal areas, if they need them. Then isolate the various militant groups. There are the sectarian groups, there are the old Taliban. You need a truth and reconciliation. Money needs to be spent in the tribal area. A fraction of the money which is being spent in military actions would be spent in truth and reconciliation, compensating the people who suffered massive losses. And then isolating the real hardline terrorists. At the moment, we've lumped all of them together and it's become unwinnable. The moment we isolate them, that's the way to go and eventually win the war. And then in Pakistan, the other reforms we need quickly to make, and then I look forward to your question and answer. The other reform is depoliticizing the governance system. And this is really where Singapore has led the way. If you look at Singapore, the greatest thing that the statesman Lee Kuan Yew did was that he concentrated on the governance, depoliticized it, made the bureaucracy efficient, paying them salaries, attracting the best talent, no interference in them, and same went with the police. Obviously, Singapore doesn't have the problem with Pakistan, but Pakistan needs to depoliticize its police. At the moment, what has happened is that police has become completely politicized. The politicians, first thing they do is when they win an election, is that in their constituency, if they are a part of the government, first thing that they do is they post their own police inspectors to man the police stations. So the moment they do that, they can victimize the opponents. And that's why we can't control crime. Because criminals are actually protected by the police and the politicians. In Karachi, when the Chief Justice went there and asked why we cannot control this target killing in Karachi, he was told that first of all, in police, people are inducted by the political parties. So once political parties induct their own workers in the police, they then ensure that their own criminals, the militants of that particular political party which is sitting in government, the police then protects them. So therefore now we have a case where we have one party which used to have a militant wing. Now you have three political parties and one a religious organization. All of them have militant wings. So there's no way you can have peace in Karachi and stability in Pakistan unless the police is depoliticized. And then finally what Pakistan needs desperately is a proper local government system. We have this old feudal culture which dates back from the colonial days, where the feudal lord was given all the power and people were basically disenfranchised. Before the British came to India, every village was a self-contained unit. It ran its own affairs. We had a very developed local government system. People were empowered. When the British came, they centralized the system, disempowered the people. Lord Cornwallis's famous permanent land settlement. So they created these feudal laws. And that's how people got disenfranchised and disempowered. And one of the great Pakistanis called Akhtar Hamid Khan started the Orangi pilot project, where he proved that even in a shanty town, if you empower the people, they can raise the standard of living. So we need to go back and build a proper local government system, empower people at the villages. Development should be done through village committees in the villages. The villages should control the police station. They should run their own primary schools. They should have their own dispensaries. It's the only way we can actually reduce poverty. And I went especially to China, met the Chinese Communist Party, asked them how they did this impossible, a miracle really, where in 20 years they brought 400 million people out of poverty. And one of the things they did was in rural development, they empowered the local communities. So this is essential in Pakistan. We need to completely change governance. Power must be devolved. The political government must release power, must no longer interfere in government corporations, which are losing huge amounts of money. 5 big government corporations, their combined loss is equal to 30% of Pakistan's tax collection. So, and the reason is they're totally politicized. So we have to completely depoliticize the government corporations, the governance system, take power away and give it to the local bodies, take power away and allow these government corporations to function headed by professionals. Do not interfere with the police. Police should no longer be under the Ministry of Interior. It should be under a citizen body, anything but not under the Ministry of Interior, because the moment it comes under the ministry, it gets politicized. And similarly, the NAB, what is the Accountability Bureau, it should not be under the government. It must be an independent body to check corruption within the government. This basically is, my view of future. And then foreign policy to end with, Pakistan needs to develop a completely different foreign policy. Until now, we have a relationship with India, which is based on distrust. Neither Pakistan trusts India, and the other way around. We have a big issue about Kashmir, but we should resolve, the two countries should resolve that Kashmir issue would be solved through dialogue. It should be a political settlement. No longer would military means or militancy be an option. And then develop trust, and then people of the subcontinent should realize the dividends of peace. There is so much to gain from peace. It's mind-boggling how much poverty we can reduce in the subcontinent by developing trade and peaceful relationship. So I think the way we have viewed each other for 65 years, time has come for a drastic change in our relationship. And as I said, based on trust, deciding that all our disputes would be settled politically. Same with Afghanistan, this idea of strategic debt. We should develop, we should back whatever government is chosen by the people of Afghanistan. Pakistan should not interfere. And that's how the Balochistan problem will be solved once we have a relationship with our neighbors, because there's a lot of outside interference in Balochistan, which is why it complicates the whole issue. With the US, Pakistan should be friends, but Pakistan should never again have this client-master relationship. The moment you take aid, the moment you beg and borrow for your existence, you lose your dignity and self-respect. And this is what we lost. So, it doesn't mean that Tehreek-e-Insaf government will be anti-American. It doesn't mean that, but it will mean that we would want friendship, which means that we can become an ally in having peace in Afghanistan, but we will not become an ally in fighting an unwinnable and an insane war. A war which is doing the opposite, totally counterproductive. It was supposed to end, a war that was supposed to end extremism, and it's ended up, there's more extremism today now. In my opinion, The world is far more dangerous place now than it was on 9/11. And it's because you do not fight a war of terror. Terrorism is you deal with terrorism by winning hearts and minds of people. You don't bomb them into submission. All by bombing and causing collateral damage, all that you do is you create more enemies. So I think the US needs a friend. No longer does, in my opinion, US should no longer patronize stooges, because this last stooge that they have patronized in Pakistan has neither served them and certainly not served the people of Pakistan.